Is Armando Broja set to leave us before deadline day? Today, my friends, I'm here to discuss all the latest January transfer news, and I'll be discussing tonight's predicted lineup for our game against Liverpool. So I hope you guys enjoy, share your thoughts and opinions, and most importantly, if you feel like we can get a result against Liverpool tonight, hit the like button. If not, don't even think about touching it. I'm feeling very superstitious today, and you guys know how I am sometimes. So I hope you guys enjoy, and without wasting any more time, let's talk about the latest story this afternoon, and we discuss ANDREY Santos because reports suggest that we are hoping to engineer a loan move for ANDREY Santos to sign for RC Strasbourg. Now, in my opinion, it's a shame that we didn't just turn to this from the summer window and do this right from the start. And I have to say that in the space of like 1 year, Santos has been at like maybe 4 different clubs. Obviously, he left Vasco da Gama, he's come to us, he's went to Nottingham Forest, and it seems like he's set to leave now to go to RC Strasbourg. That's like, what, 3 countries too in the same time? And I feel like when you're constantly relocating at such a young age, in such a short period of time, it can't be that easy. So I hope that we are looking now to really put our arm around the player and really like get him integrated now in European football. But, I have to say this, I still find it quite surprising that we didn't look to keep him ourselves and properly integrate him, especially after all the reports, after all the hype, after all the fuss. I still don't understand why we didn't do this. But, I guess the main benefit of this loan move now is that he gets to link up with his friend Angelo, who's having a really strong season with RC Strasbourg. He's not necessarily playing week in, week out. He is competing alongside in Strasbourg winger Bakwa. So listen, this is a challenge for Santos. You're not going to get easy minutes. You still have to compete to earn your spot to play under Patrick Vieira. Personally, I think this is the most common sense move. I think we're absolutely stacked in midfield right now. It seems like maybe Romeo Lavia won't be out until the end of the season, like reports, first mentioned. And I think he just needs to start playing now. That's the most important thing. And I feel a lot more comfortable that he's playing for a club that we have a strategic relationship with in RC Strasbourg. I think for me, I thought the whole point of this model of signing all these young guys for big money was that we were going to sign them so they play under our feeder clubs in a sense. I know feeder club is a bit of like a naughty words. I'm being very lazy with my description, but I thought that was the main point of the strategy. So I hope that now that Santos is set to sign for Strasbourg, this will be the start for many more players now to start getting loan moves to clubs that we own. And I'm really hoping that at some point this year we get confirmation of us maybe buying up another club. There's been lots of talk in like us buying a club in Portugal, maybe exploring clubs in Belgium, and most recently Argentina as well too. So I really feel like we must push on with this model now, because we could potentially undermine everything we're hoping to do. And it goes back to what I've been saying for a long time. Sometimes I feel like we've rush everything a bit too soon. We want to do everything all at once. And I think sometimes there is a good reason why you should prioritize mastering one part of a plan before exploring other parts. Right now, there's nothing we can do about that. So let's hope that we can accelerate progression in all areas right now, because I like the fact that we can possibly create an environment for our talents that, makes them a bit more connected with our club. Because listen, in the future, we can't see it right now, but maybe 5 or 10 years into the future, we might not even be signing as many players because we're signing them young. They're going out to our, feeder clubs, and then we're just replenishing positions in our team by bringing back players that we already own. I think this could be an incredible master plan, but you must work towards that. It's not a guarantee to be successful, but of course, fingers crossed, we are going to hope for the best. Strasbourg have a few players in their squad now that have been bought by, obviously, the parent company in Blueco. They include very interesting players like Abubakar Sila, the Ivorian left-footed centre-back, of course, the Nigerian Omega, and recent new signing of Milos Lukovic. So this is why I like that we can hopefully continue to build this connection. Strasbourg have a very, very young squad. They're currently 10th in Ligue 1. Hopefully they find themselves at a European place, because if they do, then the possibilities open up like crazy for next season. So my friends, that's the first story out the way. That's the stuff out the way. Let's dissect the predicted lineup. And as you guys are seeing on screen, Sterling on the left, Palmer up front as a false 9, Madueke on the right hand side. In midfield, Connor, Enzo, Caicedo in defence with Ben, Badia, Silva, Disasi, and Petrovic in goal. Now I'm going to explain to you guys why I'm going for this lineup. Let's go from the back to front first, and obviously I'm expecting Disasi to essentially play that Levi Colwill role. Now that Ben is back in the team, Ben will provide that natural width in the final thirds. He's got a great engine, he can play box to box, and I think he's quite underrated because whenever he's injured, we miss the impact that he brings in terms of the team balance and how he helps us. And as I've mentioned last week in prior videos, one of the main benefits as to having Ben holding the width on the left hand side now means that Enzo Fernandez doesn't have to start making those lateral runs out wide. That was killing his game, that was making him lack that influence on the ball. But now that Ben is back, Enzo can prioritize playing in his main position, and for me, this helps the overall team by like a ton. Moving up front though into midfield, I think one of the key players in this game tonight is obviously going to be Conor Gallagher, and that's because of his pressing abilities, that's because of his commitment, his aggression, the pressures that we benefit from, and how he performs in big games, because a lot of Gallagher's assists this season have come from, winning a ball up in the opposition's half and then quickly releasing a pass to one of his teammates. That's why he has I think 6 assists for the season, and against a team like Liverpool that are lacking that natural defensive midfield player. Obviously Endo is in the Asian Cup with Japan right now. Gallagher could be our tactical weapon when it comes to helping us win those balls up and forcing turnovers in Liverpool's half. That is what he's been key at, and he's been really strong against Paulina, Declan Rice and Rodri this season. Let's not forget his impact against Man City. I feel like he'll have a similar game against Liverpool tonight, and we need that because our midfield three does have a pretty decent connection, with Gallagher doing the tactical work. Caicedo is really growing even more, and I really regret that I did not speak about his recent performance more, and I think that's testament to how quietly effective Caicedo is. I think right now he sits in front of the defense, and because of that he's allowing Pochettino now to be a bit bolder. Okay, I can afford to push up maybe a left back now because I trust Caicedo, and I feel like Caicedo is now losing all of that early start to the season rust. He had no preseason, he had difficulties, he had small injuries, but I think right now he's starting to leave all that stuff behind, and we're seeing why we spent the money we did on Caicedo, who is starting to look incredibly exciting in front of our defense. So yeah, they're the two guys in midfield today, and obviously up front, I've gone for Cole Palmer up front for a reason. Obviously Jackson won't be playing. I don't think Broja needs to start either. And I think with Cole Palmer, he just allows us to have more midfield. I think that's the main tactical reason as to why. Because otherwise, you have to take out maybe either one of Gallagher or Enzo Fernandez. But I think against Liverpool, you need to have that midfield three. We need to dominate that midfield battle. We did that at the start of the season. We must continue that tonight against Liverpool. And for that reason, having Cole Palmer as the false nine makes a lot of sense. Palmer can drop deeper, of course, to link up with the midfield, effectively creating a diamond midfield four, which really helps us. I feel like because he won't be playing back to back against the defense, that will pose interesting questions to Liverpool's back line, because okay, it becomes about Liverpool defenders needing to communicate the positions that Palmer's taking up, because with Palmer dropping deeper, he'll force one of the Liverpool defenders to have to leave their lines to engage. And if we play properly, if we make the right runs in behind to exploit this, we could have an interesting game against Liverpool. I think the way we played against them at the start of the season, we were quite dominant for large parts of that game. We had times of struggle. It's Liverpool, one of the best teams in the country, but I felt our performance against them was pretty inspired. And I feel like tonight, the boys will want to really show that, yes, we are ready now to collect our first big body of the season, and I think tonight could be a promising game. But end of the lineup, I've gone for Madueke over Mudryk, and I'm going for simple footballing reasons. Now, both players in the past 7 games, Madueke scored 3 goals, Mudryk scored 2. I'm not going to be picking them based on who's scoring more. I'll be picking Madueke based on the performances he's leaving on the field. I think for myself, right now, I'm feeling more confident towards Madueke's understanding of the system. You see it in the heat maps with the positions he's picking up by holding the width out wide. You see that in the consistency behind his dribbling threat when he cuts inside, he can hold his man off. He's not constantly getting tackled or dispossessed or losing possession and just allowing like easy counterattacks in behind. And there's a bit more of a consistent threat behind his game right now. And I think that he deserves to start playing more games compared to Mudryk, where it's still a bit start and stop for him. I think that's a natural thing though, because, you know, you can't expect Mudryk to play like, what, 6-7 amazing games on the bounce. But with a squad like what we have, it's about competition, and the players who are performing deserve to play. And I think that's Madueke. You know, Madueke on the right-hand side, you're bringing that threat against, Robertson, Sterling playing on the left, and hopefully these two will make those infield runs, in between Liverpool's defence whenever Cole Palmer drops deeper. I know some people feel like Nini, like Cole Palmer up front though, it's like a waste of his position. Look at his poor finishing when he plays up front compared to playing deeper. I understand that, but I wouldn't say that's because Palmer is playing the position poorly. Let's not forget that he constantly finds himself in these shooting positions. So he is in the right areas. He's constantly, we can't forget how he finds intelligent positions when he has the license to leave and roam his position. I think people are conflating two things, and I think there is a reality behind playing up front. And I see it like this: if you're tasked with playing as like the last line of your team's attack, right, where like you have more opportunities to be one-on-one against the goalkeeper, I think the mental pressure, of course, goes up to a different level. And I think Palmer and most strikers who play for us have experienced this pressure time and time again. And I think it's different when you play a bit deeper, because you have a bit more space to be able to, preempt what your next move is about to be, because you're making that late arrival inside the books. Whereas on the other hand, you're relying upon service that releases you 1v1, and it becomes about experience a lot of times when it comes to finishing. Palmer has still scored goals up front, so I don't feel like it's a weakness playing there. And as I mentioned, I think tactically, this is the strongest team for us to play against Liverpool, to completely overrun them in midfield tonight. So my friends, that's my lineup. Share your thoughts and opinions. And now we end things with the final story, and we discuss the future surrounding Armando Broja. Is he set to leave us before deadline day? And our Fulham about to sign him for £50 million. Now, time will tell. Obviously, the window ends tomorrow on Thursday. But so far, Villa, West Ham, Wolves, they've kind of dropped their interest based on the asking price. Now, they were a bit put off by even having to spend £30 million. So our asking fee of around £50 million is a massive tall order. There aren't many clubs that could probably afford that in the window right now, maybe other than Fulham, who could do with a striker. But even then, reports today suggest that Fulham are trying to sign Ryan Cherki for £35 million today. So I wonder how much money they would have left if anything happens. So, if Broja does leave, I'd be incredibly surprised if it's for £50 million. And I feel like there's going to be a ton of flexibility around the departure. Could it be something like a loan move with like a guaranteed loan fee? Pay off all his wages until the end of the season and have like an obligation to buy set at around like, 35-40 million pounds. That could be the workaround right now. And, time will obviously tell. But as I've mentioned before with this story, it's quite obvious that Broja is being sold as a sacrificial lamb to allow us to sign Osimhen. Because, come on, an academy grad that could bring in potentially, fingers crossed, 50 million, 40 million, whatever. In terms of pure accounting profit, we could sign so many players based on that. And that's what we've done. If you look at the player costs we're already paying per season now, it's at around like nearly 100 million based on all the players we've signed. So we structure deals in such a good way. But to be able to do that, we need to profit from, but in order to do this, we need to rely upon our academy to fund these moves, because they bring in the pure accounting profit. And I feel this is where interesting questions get posed, because I think since we've started to religiously sell what we produce, we brought in, I think, like £330 million. That is an incredible amount of money. And, it clearly shows that many teams across Europe, place a lot of value behind the players that we're producing. And it seems like maybe they place more value on them compared to us, because if you want to keep things real, you could be cynical. You could argue we've sold all these academy guys that people said weren't good enough, yet we haven't actually gone to another level. Most of the new signings haven't necessarily taken us to new heights or new levels. And would we have been better if we kept most of these guys in our squad, in our team, and you know, the money that we saved on could have been used to buy real top class, like high level players. You guys know that's always been my hopes and dreams, and come on, like I just always love the idea of any club that is able to like win things and produce great performances, relying upon players that they've basically produced, players that have been at this club since they were kids. I just think that's like one of the most epic football stories. That's what kind of captures my attention. I feel like we came close to that in that 1920 season where we came fourth, but we were the joint third with Man United with 66 points. And that season before it started, people wrote us off. People said we're going to be out of Europe, we're going to be 10th, we're going to be 8th. I knew that was not going to be the case because I watched these guys play. I knew what was about to happen, and I still knew that we would get a top 4 spot. And to think that we secured Champions League football where most of these guys played their first season of Prem football at our football club. I think when you look back now, you can look at it with a lot more of a fonder light compared to how people were assessing things in real time during those seasons. But you think to yourself, if you kept your Guys, your Gilmores, your Livramentos, your Tamoris, your Tammy Abrahams, etc., would we necessarily be worse off compared to where we are right now? Let's be honest. You know, are these guys that have moved on a level below what we currently have at our club? Absolutely not. It's interesting that we place very high transfer fees on these guys. Of course, Maatsen, we wanted around like 35 million for. We could probably get that once the season's over because he is on absolute fire for Dortmund right now, and he's playing to such a good level that naturally you have to think, why was he not deemed good enough playing for us when, I mean, is the entry to barrier to first team football really that high for a player like Maatsen? I'm not too sure. But I guess, you know, I can have all my frustrations, I can vent, whatever. Reality is that we are selling these guys to fund, you know, our first team. All I can hope and pray for is that we are doing things the right way, because we can't rely upon our academy to constantly bring in, you know, this type of transfer revenue, especially when most of the top players now are leaving at a younger age, especially when the entry to barrier for most of the young guys back in the day is kind of looking non-existent right now, because we're buying younger players instead of integrating our academy guys. So it's easy to be like, oh, Nini, you know, it's just how the game works, we have to sell them. But let's not forget that this isn't like an infinite pool of talent we can constantly just make profit from to help fund our first team. So this is the most important time now, because in a way we are selling like guarantees that could really help the squad now to fund moves for supposedly better players. So this gamble has to pay off, in my opinion. So my friends, share your thoughts and opinions. These are the latest stories today, and obviously I'll see you later tonight for the match review against Liverpool. So I'm Nini FC, this is BlueLionsTV. See you guys later. Cool.